I'm Kevin Benedict, Senior Analyst for Digital Transformation here at Cognizant, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Now, many of you know who've had the opportunity or misfortune to have to look at a lot of my videos know that I travel a lot, and I go to a lot of conferences, and I speak in a lot of different locations. And I had the privilege of meeting an individual that I want to introduce today. His name is Michael Boerner. Michael, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Kevin. Great to be with you.
Now, Michael is the CEO and founder of a really interesting technology company called SmartStory. Why don't you just talk to us about that, Michael? What's SmartStory all about?
Sure. SmartStory is really about the intersection between big data and storytelling. And so when it comes to the moment we live in, we have this incredible intersection where the delivery of short-form video is now possible by summoning it with a smart device, with a computer, with anything that has web-enabled power. We can now bring the leading mind we want exactly to the moment and the point where it's important and interesting. And so if you take the time to have the infrastructure and the enterprise technology to intelligently organize short-form video, you can put things together before that you never could just even a handful of years ago.
So, Michael, let's explain to our viewers today short form. What do you mean in that context, and what's it mean for somebody listening today?
Well, if you think about it, we only have three mediums. We've got print, we've got audio, we've got video. And you look at the consumption of television compared to radio, compared to reading, it's a little bit sad, but it's actually very powerful to think about the amount of video consumption we have. And there's really two broad buckets of video. You've got entertainment and you've got knowledge-based content. Well, entertainment can be virtually any length, but there's something about knowledge-based content that people have a certain preferred length, and that length is right about 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
I'm not sure exactly why that is, but much like eating a meal, if you take knowledge-based content and you break it down into bite-sized segments, we really like to consume it with just this kind of cadence of being able to take 2 minutes at a time and then be able to learn in kind of a sequence pattern. And so when you look at the ComScore numbers, there's something important about the 2 minute, 2.5 minute amount of time, especially when it's relevant. You've got a little more leverage to go longer, but there's something magical about a 2 minute length of content using video.
So I talk a lot about digital transformation, enterprise mobility, change management, and all kinds of things like that. Now, in the course of our conversation, we talked about a book that you've recently read, Code Halos. And matter of fact, the book Code Halos is written by three of my colleagues, Malcolm Frank, Benjamin Prang, and Paul Rurig. And you said you had read it and that you saw all kinds of applications to your business and that you were applying a lot of these principles. Let's talk about that. But before we jump into the book per se, let's really set the context about SmartStory. What's the value proposition your company and technology is bringing your customers today?
Sure. Well, really the core of SmartStory technology is enabled by Code Halos. That's why when I heard about this book, I thought this is a brilliant way to take the whole concept of the data that surrounds every individual and what you can do with it, what it enables. And so SmartStory technology, without the Code Halos, we really wouldn't exist. So this is a very powerful application. So I was very excited to learn about this book, and as I started reading it, I began to realize how much these guys at Cognizant had really focused in on the power and the value of the individualized data. And so we talk a lot about cloud and a lot about big data. Well, what's interesting about big data, it's nothing but a whole lot of micro pieces of data. And so what SmartStory is all about is making sense of the individualized data that's all a part of that very large data set. And so what we do is we take complex or high consideration situations. For example, you go and you buy a complicated consumer electronics device, say a new smartphone or a tablet or a new laptop. That's a somewhat complicated device, and so you need to get a lot out of it. Similarly, when you think about retail pharmacy. So in the US, there are over 4.2 billion unique purchases of pharmaceuticals just in the US, and so those are very complicated pieces of information that we need to understand about our health. Well, how do we take the data that's resident in those environments, that halo of data that surrounds an individual purchase, even though there are tens of millions of transactions that go on every day.
Because I imagine what somebody purchases in a pharmacy can give you a lot of additional information about that person.
It's extraordinary. The amount of data that's resident inside of that moment is amazing. And if you think about it, the current norms, this is what drives us. The value proposition and the problem we're solving really comes around the kind of current way we do things. So this is the way we right now receive the data. So if I pick up a prescription, this is the information I receive. Well, to most of us, reading that much print, especially on that size and scale, is not our preferred medium to learn. And so what we do is we take the data that surrounds those circumstances. A big one is the point of sale system. And so the moment someone makes that purchase, here's what's really going on. If I'm a member of the loyalty program, or if I've been a customer at one of these large retailers for years, they know exactly who I am. They know what my purchase history is. They know what store I'm purchasing at. They even know if I'm an intermediate or beginner or an advanced learner or expert in their particular product. So the data that surrounds me, especially in the consumer electronics space, or again, even in healthcare, is so substantial. What we do is we take our technology, and instead of installing software, we use APIs, and we draw that information out of that data-rich moment and build a sequential video storytelling, what we call arc of engagement. But it's all personalized around the enterprise's brand.
So if you were to get some medicine that was different from mine and you're in line in front of me, you may get a different set of information than I would based upon all of that code halo.
Correct.
That's different. It's personalized for you than it would be for me.
Completely. And what's powerful about that is even at scale, what we've built is a system to manage the knowledge that we can have available in short form video. The problem is brevity is the enemy to complexity. So you can't explain something very complex in 2 minutes, but you can do it in a series of 2-minute videos, especially if they're designed to be presented to that patient or to that customer in what we call a frictionless method. So the data triggers the engagement. And the most important piece here is we're not introducing a new brand or a new introduction to this customer. This is the brand, let's say it's a Best Buy or a Walgreens or a Walmart. They already have a relationship. And so when you come and make that purchase, the ability to let you take the expert home with you automatically, without any search, without any desire to actually have to go find it outside in YouTube or the many places people search. Google's done a phenomenal job with organizing information. But imagine if you were the company trying to organize that many videos on YouTube. It's not an easy job, and so the signal to noise ratio is very, very high. The time to access the right vetted content is difficult. And so we created a platform that allows us to intelligently organize short form video, but it puts it into a platform that's not just video. It's also the wrapping of the brand. It's the geolocation. And in fact, in the retail pharmacy environment, it's being able to put your physician in the masthead, your insurance company, and your neighborhood pharmacy right there at the top.
So we call that at Cognizant in the Center for the Future Work, we use a buzzword called hyper-personalization.
That's right.
Where the experience is going to be completely different for you than it would be for me. That's a hyper-personalized experience, and it's hyper-personalized based upon data captured through the code halo, as the phrase is coined in the book, Code Halo.
Well, and that's what really these guys who wrote this extraordinary book are talking about is, when you walk up to your bank, they don't know anything about you. You're not bringing your code halo with you in the real world. Suddenly, the real world is not feeling as customized as the online world is, which is something they really draw out. This is fascinating about the book. You go to an ATM, they need to know if you speak English or Spanish.
Right.
It's fascinating how behind...
Like, don't you know who I am?
You guys know me, but really they don't until they can read your code halo.
Yeah.
Well, the beauty of this level of data is to do exactly what you described, to make it extraordinarily personalized. And what we love about the medium of video is it has something the other mediums don't. It has the power to have the visual and the empathy, the compassion that often these complex subjects really require. And so when someone is trying to learn something very complicated or important to their purchase, which in many cases can be hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars, if they don't understand it fairly quickly, there's a high likelihood they're going to return the item.